The SCHD ETF fell hard during the late summer of this year, even at one point reaching a 52-week low of around $66 per share. And as some of the leading sectors in SCHD underperformed through the last year, many investors rotated out of those sectors, leaving the ETF lower and lower in price. But since then, dip buyers have returned into SCHD in numbers, canceling out almost all the losses that we saw earlier this year. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain why I think the worst is over, at least for now, for the king of dividend growth ETFs, SCHD. And also why I think it's time, now more than ever, to be extremely greedy if you have it on the fence about purchasing this ETF. Now, before we get into all that, make sure to please drop a like down below and subscribe for more future content like this. Before we get into today's video, make sure to please go to the first link in my description and grab my brand new dividend investing ebook and dividend tracker bundle. I promise you guys are going to find tons of value in both. So when it comes to being greedy, now is a better time than ever in my opinion. And as of filming this video, we now see that the Fed holds rates steady and indicates 3 cuts coming in 2024. So pretty much for any investor, especially for those that have been looking into SCHD, now could be a better time than ever to dip your toes back into the market and, or if you're like me, continue to buy more shares like crazy. Now, another reason on why I personally feel like it's a better time now more than ever to be as greedy as possible when it comes to the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF and buying more shares of it. If we look right here in the max time frame for SCHD, not all that long ago, SCHD was trading at almost $80 per share. And I know year to date, this ETF has had some rough patches, even at one point that we mentioned earlier trading below $67 per share. But since then, ever since basically November 1st, this ETF has been trucking all the way up almost $10 per share since the most recent lows. Now, for most investors that buy into this ETF, you're not necessarily just buying into the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF to make some gains off of the ETF price return. Although to be real, 186% over the last 12 or so years is not bad at all. But the main reason that investors like myself at least buy into SCHD is because of multiple different reasons. We like the fact that this ETF definitely does have the capacity, the potential to return some massive gains in the form of price return. But on top of that, this ETF has a great high quality methodology with a well-diversified portfolio with some of the biggest, best names across the entire market leading the pack. But maybe for some investors, including myself, maybe, just maybe, most importantly, we're paying attention to the dividend. And of course, the dividend growth, which we saw as of recently, and I'm sure you saw the video of me talking about the dividend increase during one of my previous videos. But in my opinion, now is the time more than ever to be greedy and buy up as many shares as possible of this ETF before it reaches $80 per share, which at this rate, it definitely will be reaching sometime soon. Now, this is of course because as of right now, even with it trading as high as it is currently, investors are still able to lock in around a 3.63% starting dividend yield, which isn't necessarily as high as what you were able to lock in just a few months back. I remember buying tons of shares of SCHD below $70 per share and getting a 4% starting dividend yield all day. But even still, we just, as of recently, in case you missed it, I'll go over it, we just saw a new dividend being paid just as of recently of 74 cents per share. Now, this is not only a massive increase from last year this time. To be more specific, the last December dividend that SCHD paid was 70 cents and now with a 74-cent dividend. Not only was that much bigger than last December, but that was the absolute biggest dividend that SCHD has paid as of all time. Yes, over the last decade plus, this ETF has never paid more than 70 cents per share per quarter. But just as of recently, we saw a 74-cent dividend paid, which I've talked about pretty openly on my channel, that I personally believe that a lot of investor sentiments, or maybe lack thereof, comes from the fact that this ETF has continued to pay more and more in dividends over time. And at least I can speak for me personally, and I'd love to hear what you guys think down below. The fact that SCHD did announce a massive dividend increase not only secures this ETF to be known as the dividend growth king, but on top of that really allows you to sleep well at night, knowing that this ETF's mission is still alive and well, and that's to pay dividends every single quarter and to pay more and more consistently over time. Now, I can't even start to explain how excited I am about this. The fact that SCHD did blow even the previous December 2022 dividend of 70 cents completely out of the water. And because of the recent performance of SCHD and the overall market pretty much during 2023 and the most recent dividend before this one in September being lower than the previous dividend back in June, A lot of SCHD investors, including myself, were hopeful but a little bit nervous to see what the future December dividend would look like. Now, I've definitely talked about this in previous videos, but I tend to honestly think that the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF's dividend growth rate plays a very, very important role in the overall investment vehicle and, of course, the investor sentiment. Because after all, if you look at SCHD's dividends quarterly, since this ETF's paid the very first dividend back in 2011, the dividend growth has been something very special when it comes to this ETF and has made a lot of investors very wealthy over the past decade or so. Now, for me personally, I've been buying shares of SCHD on a daily basis, as you can see right here in one of my larger dividend growth portfolios, and I've been buying around 1 to 3 shares across all my portfolios on a daily basis. Now, I know there's some investors out there that buy many more than this on a daily basis, and there's some investors out there that might not have enough cash balance to do so. But I showed this just to make things very clear. I personally, as a long-term dividend growth investor, believe in SCHD and the future dividend growth ahead. Now, a lot of SCHD investors have been pretty critical about some of the top 10 holdings when it comes to this ETF. And for good reason. Some of these companies, in my opinion, are not necessarily companies that I would necessarily love to have in my long-term portfolio, although the majority of them definitely are. But within these top 10 holdings, there has been some very, very bullish news as of recently, especially for a few of them. We have seen some massive dividend increases, especially from names like Amgen, for example, that just raised their dividend by 5.6% to $2.25 per share. Now, we have to remember that as a lot of these top 10 holdings do things like raise their dividends, it's going to give this ETF a better and better chance of also seeing massive dividend increases, which are really going to help you as a shareholder. But just out of curiosity, out of all these different top 10 holdings, if you were able to pick one of them to remove, which one would it be? So when it comes to SCHD, what else is there really more to say? Right now, more than ever, in my opinion, is the time to be greedy, if there was ever a time. Now, of course, an even better time to buy this ETF would have been back in October when it was around $66 per share. But just remember, it's very possible that we could see this ETF back up to the $80 plus per share in no time. And some investors are even speculating that we could see this ETF above $90 by 2025. So with everything that's happening right now in the markets, the Federal Reserve officially pausing rate hikes, and now there being multiple, most likely, rate cuts in 2024, the market is obviously going to react one way through all this, most likely. And unless there's some sort of crazy black swan event, we are going to see the overall market really rise in the next few months. So when it comes to this ETF, buying as of right now could be a great opportunity to lock in what's left of a decent starting dividend yield, still over 3.5%, which is not bad at all, and also be able to catch some of that price appreciation that we could see over the next decade plus. But when it comes to the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF or SCHD, I want to hear from you guys down below. Do you also agree with me that as of right now, for long-term dividend growth investors, it is time to get greedy and buy this ETF like crazy? Or comment down below why you think it might not be the best time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.